Welcome to the Second Chance Workshop. Come on in, I'll show you around. All right, here's where the magic happens. So cool to have you here.
1 year ago today, I got laid off from my job. Lost, confused, and really drowning in self-doubt, I was given a beaten up piece of furniture and decided to turn it into something cool. Surprisingly, it became my escape, keeping my mind engaged and my creativity flowing during the tough times of a job search. Who would have guessed that this little DIY project would evolve into friends texting me about their roadside discoveries, bringing it over, and asking me to do projects for them? Now, I'm investing time and energy into breathing new life into old things. I really believe that each piece tells a story of renewal, kind of like how I found my own fresh start after getting the boot from my job. Seeing the faces of people when they have the furniture in front of them, brand new, a whole new life, new memories to be made, is worth every single second. Sure, it's still a side gig, but let me be the living proof that even when you're in the dumps, there are ways to reconnect with your passion. So here's to turning discarded moments into something meaningful.
They call her the San Diego Flipper. And so when I tell you I'm super excited to be here in San Diego, I brought my San Diego hat with me and all that good stuff. I'm just a young kid from Nashville, Tennessee. Just been traveling all around the United States interviewing thrifters, flippers, and those who resell, just trying to get some great stories and share them with you. And so Jenny has allowed me to come into her home. And when I tell you, we're going to have a great time today. So it's not all about me, as I always say, but it is about Miss Jenny here. And so I'm super excited. So the next big flip, let's get it.
Let's go. I will say, listen, I got a small space. It's a little messy. I try to keep it organized. If you got any tips or tricks, help a girl out. But this is my little area where I kind of keep all my furniture, supplies, and all the good stuff. But I also share the garage with my partner. He's got his work stuff, his softball stuff. We've got all kinds of things in here. So it's a multi-purpose space, and he also parks. So I got to clean up all my furniture. I can't store too much, unfortunately, because it could probably get out of hand otherwise. But I got some pieces that are happening here. I keep them covered with their little, cloths, keep them nice and cozy in here. But this is a mid-century modern one. I just sanded it, and I just pieced some old veneer. There were chips in the veneer. I got to go over this again and sand it down to get the rough edges off, and then I'm going to be staining this, and I'm really excited about this piece because it's super pretty, and it was made in like the 50s or something. I wish I knew more about furniture history, but we also got this one. This is really cool. I just sanded this top, but this, you can tell, actually most people might not even know what this is for. Typewriter. Crazy, right? And apparently I found an old note in the back of this thing. Belonged to a prominent San Diego attorney from like the 1940s. So this thing, lots of history. I'm gonna completely restore it and stain it. And I actually just got a bunch of product today. I'm gonna do a pre-stain on it first because that wood is gonna it's gonna absorb too much too fast. So I gotta pre-stain that, and then I'm still waiting on my Kona stain to come in. I'm going to darken that up a bit and then top coat it with some poly and hopefully find it a new home. But I think, like, for me, pieces tell stories, and you could just kind of put your hand on them and you just like feel the story. And I just think it is so special that we're giving these things a second chance. And of course, we want to make money off of them, but there's just so much more. It keeps it out of a landfill, keeps it going. This used to be a freaking tree, right? Like, so maybe I'm a little quirky for thinking that, but I get really into the emotional aspect of it all. And yeah, so that's the scoop with that. But I got multiple projects going on always at one time because I also just like 6 months ago took a corporate job, so a full-time day job, to pay the bills so I don't have to stress out as much. So I'm grateful for that. And then I do furniture restoration 1 day a week and then sprinkled in if there are breaks and stuff throughout the week. But I really have to be strategic about my time and the types of things I take in. And speaking of what I take in, someone left a piece just in the alley across the way. I always find things here. This is like the magic alley that just gives, just gives wonderful things. And there's some there. Maybe we could go take a look and check it out. You want to come? All right, let's go. Let me get my shades. I think we should be good here. So in San Diego, and I know not just in San Diego, but all other places, you know, if someone doesn't have space for a piece of furniture, or they, you know, it's not really easy to just get rid of these things. You can't just throw them in the trash can. They'll leave them on the curb or in the alley, and you know, it's kind of up for grabs at that point. And sometimes the trash trucks will come through, scoop it in if no one picks it up, and then it goes to the landfill. And it's sad because sometimes there's a lot of good pieces of furniture. But this alley seems to just give and give. And here, what do we got here? I don't know. Let's see. Oh, it's pretty warped. Oh, but that is solid. That would probably need to be replaced. But look at that. I mean, you would just need a little spray paint here. And even if you didn't, you could probably just hammer those back down. You could probably still pick that up and sell it. But, you know, it's so, one of the things I've been really working on is being more strategic about what I take in, because I have limited time. And it's always when I find a piece like this and I'll take it in, and then the next day I get a client project and I have to say no because I don't have the space for it. So and that actually just happened today. I have a message from a potential client. And so I'm like, okay, I have to figure out how to do my time right. And I think that's a really important thing for us furniture flippers. And if you're like me, you just want to save everything, but you can't save everything. So fortunately, I'm going to have to leave this guy here. And I hope that someone picks it up and does something with it, because that could be a good, like, first furniture project. You know, a lot of people think, oh, I want to get into furniture flipping. How do I even start? Find something like that, mess up on it, make a bunch of mistakes, try out a bunch of products, see what works. You know, that's how you're going to learn. I don't know. That's what I did. How many mistakes can I make? That is what I went for. Now we're back to the workshop. I feel really lucky to live in a space where I can do this. I've only been working on furniture for a couple of years now, and it's really a gift, and it's something that I think about 24/7. I think about it from the angle of, I'm just like, I just want to be in the garage working on these pieces, bringing them back to life and finding them new homes. For me, that is exactly what it's about. And the other thing that I think is super cool is that I get messages from so many people, but specifically messages from women asking me, how do I use an orbital sander? I want to do something, but I've never picked one up and I have no idea it's intimidating. Or what products do I use for this? And being able to take something that I didn't know about, and I learned kind of on my own by picking up pieces like that and making a bunch of mistakes, to then take that knowledge and be able to help others learn how to do it for themselves, and then also get addicted to this furniture restoration process is really freaking cool. So I'm grateful for that. And I hope that one day I can do that on a bigger level to really empower people to learn how to use these things and repurpose things for themselves and not have to throw these pieces away. Or if they find one in the alley or their friend has something that they're going to toss, to take it in and do something with it and either make some extra cash by selling it or keeping it for themselves. So it's pretty cool. Now, sometimes, let's see, I'm driving through here. And this is where I store all my stuff. And to be quite honest, because I started furniture restoration when I was laid off from my corporate job, I had no income. I was trying to figure things out. I use my Buy Nothing group quite often. And a lot of like these storage racks, even this little thing, it's a hot mess right now. I really wish I would have played this up more, but a lot of these things all were gifted to me because people didn't need them anymore. And so this is just another example of asking for help, putting it out there that you're looking for things, or seeing what other people are going to give away. Use your Buy Nothing group. That's also another resource for really great starter projects and just trying things out. But just wanted to call that out, that this hot mess over here that I call a storage area needs a lot of help. But it was also a lot, everything was gifted as far as the racks and storage containers go. And then all of the products that I have on here. Sometimes people do give away things that they're not using anymore. They use them for a small project. I take it in, I could use it. But otherwise, I've really gotten to know brands and kind of stay true to the brands that I know are going to work. I know how the products are going to react when they're on wood. It's just reliable. You kind of learn that the more you get into it. But also, let me show you one other thing, because keeping track of projects is also really important. There are so many steps. And when I worked in corporate, before I got laid off, like, I'm very operational minded. And so process and procedure is what I did in the startup tech world for customer experience. And so having a structure and process, so I know where I am at in each stage of the piece, especially when I have multiple pieces going on, becomes incredibly important. And so I have like an Asana project that I built out I keep on my phone, but I also have it here on my whiteboard. And again, this whiteboard someone was giving it away. I took this whiteboard in, and I just keep track of where I'm at in each of the processes. Will either eventually I'll erase where I'm at and just start where I'm at. Keep track of client projects and things like that on here. But Google Sheets is also really helpful for keeping track of things. But if you're doing multiple projects, having a structure in place to keep track of it is going to be so helpful, because you're going to want to see your growth and progress over time. You're going to want to know where you are, so you're not like, wait, did I stain that piece yet? Or did I sand that with 120, 220? It's just really helpful to keep track of it that way. So really important, at least what I've experienced. So hopefully that's really helpful for you. But yeah, I am digging into these processes and enjoying every second of the storytelling. You know me, I also love to sing. And when there's a piece of old furniture that, was being given away, and this particular one was a showroom piece in Los Angeles in the I want to say late 40s is when I did my research on this Cavalier dresser. Like, it's just really cool to know that you're part of this story. Who knows all the memories that are held in this? And so I'll grab my guitar, and as I'm literally sanding pieces, I'll think of songs. And actually, I have my little songbook. This is like absolutely ridiculous, but I've sang and played guitar since I was 12. I wouldn't say I'm like really that good, but I love it, and it's a part of who I am, and it's how I tell stories. So I'll literally be sanding a piece of furniture, and I'll stop because I'm like, oh, I got some lyrics. And then I'll sit and I'll write in my book the lyrics. And then I will put it out, and I'll grab my guitar and I'll just sing. And I can write these things really quickly. They're really cheesy and silly. Sometimes they're a little more motivating than others. But yeah, I'm a Swiftie, but I also like John Mayer. I know that probably is controversial to some people, but this was from his concert back in 2023, and I write my songs in here. And that's kind of how I keep the music going. So there's furniture restoration, storytelling, second chances, and music, all in this beautiful, also hot mess of a garage. Because that is just how life is. I keep it real. I'm not trying to project anything that I'm not. This is who I am. Let me go grab my guitar. Let's see. So I'll just grab it, and then I haven't written anything yet, but let's see what we got here. But I think there's so much power in storytelling and in songwriting, and when we're talking about like the history of certain things, the stories are just a part of it. And if we could all just, I don't know, bringing music into it is really fun. So I don't know, what should we sing a song about?
Let's sing about the table that you didn't get,
The
maybe.
table, oh, the tale of the table we didn't get. There's a table sitting in the alley, and well, I didn't take it. It's a little beat up, but it's got some potential. I left it there because I just got too much going on, and you just gotta be picky when you take it home. But I hope that that table finds its way to another furniture flipper to give it a second chance. So I hope that table finds its way to someone else, 'cause it deserves it. Completely made up on the spot. Here we are. And that's where the cheese comes in. I don't even know if that made sense. But I love that. I just think I really do hope someone picks that up, because it'd be a great starter table for someone for sure. We'll spray paint on that frame, just hammering in those boards, little light sanding. Even you could hand sand that, restain it. Boom. You could probably make, I don't know, $50 on that, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're keeping track of them in your Excel spreadsheet, you'll see over time that adds up. So thanks for coming to my show.
Take me through some of your tools that you enjoy using.
Oh,
Why you have
yes. Got it.
I know some women have asked about, like you said, the orbital sander and vacuum up to them and strip paint and all that good stuff. But just show me some of your go-tos.
You got it. First of all, you got to meet Clifford. This is Clifford, the big red shop vac. Clifford is a game changer. When I first got into furniture flipping, I didn't have a shop vac. So this garage was essentially coated in what I like to call glitter, but also essentially sawdust, and it was freaking everywhere. So a shop vac is going to be a game changer. And what plugs into the shop vac is Betty Blue here, my Bosch orbital sander. This thing is, if you are thinking about any tool for starting furniture restoration, it is an orbital sander. You can just, they're very inexpensive. They're under $100, and you just get some sanding pads. I'll show you those in a second, but this just hooks up to Clifford here, and then you literally can do so much. I will say, for me, when I first started flipping, I was, stripping paint off of pieces of furniture using, the chemical stripper, and I kept getting sick. Even with which I'm going to show you here, two other very important things. My respirator mask. Even with this, I was getting sick, and this is so important to have for every project, whether you're painting, sanding, staining, anything, wear a respirator. And I kept getting sick, like the worst sinus infections where it literally was like piercing my brain, and I didn't know what was going on. I went to so many doctors, and after additional testing, it turns out that I have extreme sensitivity to, there's a chemical in paint stripper, I can't remember the name, even the green ones have it, so I can't use it. So if there's paint on something, I'm either using my carbide scraper, which is hidden under here. Carbide scraper will get this paint right off, but I'm either using that or I'm using my orbital sander, and always wearing the right safety gear with a respirator mask. My guitar is just always part of this mess. And then safety glasses. You may think that, oh, I'm just painting, whatever. Have you ever got paint in your eye? Yeah, it's not the most fun. It sometimes splatters up, stain splatters. Just wear the glasses. Mine need a good cleaning right now because I haven't cleaned them after last use, but wear the glasses. So that's kind of like the starter kit here, with the guitar if you must. But really, these products are my absolute go-tos that I use every single time I flip furniture, every time I work on any piece. The other thing that really comes in handy, a couple things here. So when you are working on pieces, and you'll see in my garage, I don't have like countertops that I can put pieces of furniture on, or something to sit on. I could probably get something, but I don't really have a ton of space. So I have a knee pad that I put down, because protecting your knees, you wouldn't think it, but before I had this thing, I had so many bruises on my knees. But then, and this actually belonged to my partner, Dave, and he also got me these knee pads to put on and wear when I'm working. So they'll just pop right on, and I can just look super cool with these. But also, if I'm doing multiple projects, I don't have to worry about moving that. It just goes right with me. And then that way, my knees stay protected. And, it sounds so cheesy to talk about the safety gear, because most of us want to, you see some of these furniture reels, and there's these beautiful people making these beautiful pieces of furniture. And I love seeing this. But if you don't wear the right safety gear, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt one way or another. Wearing gloves when I sand pieces of furniture, I have my gloves on, because what if that orbital sander moves to the side and you get your finger in there? There's just so many things that could happen, completely accidental, but also things that are just like splatters, paint, all the things. Get yourself some of these gloves when you're painting. These are going to be super important too, wearing these. It's just like the little things that are going to make the biggest impact. One last thing I'll share, and my hairdresser will speak to this one, but wear a bandana, especially if you're painting and you kind of are a messy painter like myself. Put this over your hair, because when you get paint in your hair, it's a real pain in the butt to get out. So those are really my go-tos. That's my starter kit. There's so many tools out there. I have a table saw kind of starred on the side of the house, and I use it very infrequently because it really freaks me out, honestly. But there's so many things available to us that we can use and learn. And there's so many wonderful teachers out there doing furniture restoration and makeovers that can show you. But always make sure that you know about the safety gear and how to use them in advance. I just can't stress that enough. You don't want to lose a finger, an eye. You don't want to get sinus infections if you can avoid it. So if you're going to start doing anything with furniture, get the safety gear first, even if it's a small project. I really can't stress that enough, because you don't want to mess with that stuff. I think the other thing is just making sure you have good basic tools. Do you got a hammer? A screwdriver? You're going to need different types of things like that, the different wrenches and stuff. So just making sure that you have the basics as well. And a lot of these you can either find maybe on your Buy Nothing group. You can find at your local hardware store for very inexpensive. And having them handy before you start is going to be helpful, because you don't want to be mid-project and you're like, oh, I don't have that. And you're like, well, I need that. Now I got to stop everything and go run to the store. So just things like that are going to be incredibly helpful along the way. And then, of course, there's so many different things you can add on. Over here, in this hot mess here, I have my Wagner Flexio paint sprayer, which was a new addition. And to be honest, I got this thing off Facebook Marketplace. So it's used, but it was used like one time. So that is another tip for you. If
pull that out.
Oh,
Somebody told me it's important to have a good paint sprayer.
Yes.
And they recommend this brand here.
Ooh.
So I want you. And somebody asked, how do you use the paint sprayer? Like, how do you hook it up? Do you have cleaning tips for it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Let me tell you what I've learned. So the paint sprayer is a game changer for larger projects. For me personally, using it on a small table, sure, you could do it, but I find more value on larger projects. So I'm just going to put that out there first. Secondly, I really recommend to look, you could buy new of course, that's always an option, but look on your local Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp or other selling app, because people use these once or twice for a house project and they'll post them on here. I literally got this for about half the price, and it was brand new when I got it. And so to use it, so essentially it's all stored in this little box, but you will have the spray tip. And this particular one, this is the 5000 model. You have two spray tips. One's a little bit smaller, and you have a larger one and two little containers. One that's obviously for larger projects, and you could use the other one for like top coat or so on. So it's really accessible for multiple uses. And then this just, you literally plug it in, 3-prong plug in here, and then you hook this right in here, and then it eventually, if I can get this, there we go. So, and so you put your paint in here, you just dilute it with a tiny bit of water, and then it just kind of screws on here with this, and then you put the little tip on. But this is a game changer because it makes for a nice, smooth spray. It's almost like you bought it from the store look. It does take a little bit of practice because the paint comes out really strong. So when you use it for the first time, try it on just some, just some samples of wood, or, just do some on the side to get a feel for the spray, because the nozzle, which is in here, it actually, I keep them stored in here so they don't lose, but they have different settings. So you'll want to play around with the different settings. So it just hooks right on there. And then this just spins right on here.
So a table like that was in the alley would be something good to practice on.
Oh, totally. Yes. This would be perfect for that. You could just, get some paint, dilute it with a little bit of water to practice with the consistency of it. You plug this right on in, and then essentially it's just a suction system in here. The motor for this is really, really powerful. And I like that it plugs in. I've had paint sprayers that are battery, and while I think that it's great because it's more convenient, you don't have to worry about a cord. I will say that the battery charge may not last as long as you need it. And when it starts to die down, the paint can get a little clunky, and there may not be a warning system that you know about. So I ran into it where I was like, oh no, I didn't know. And all of a sudden it just like shoots out a bunch of paint, and you're like, oh, I didn't know it was dying. Then you kind of have to go back over it again. On the back of the paint sprayer, there are different settings that you can play around with, and it essentially is just different sprays of the nozzle. You'll see here, some of this I didn't clean, but the parts that are the most important to clean, and everything comes apart so easy with this. I mean, it's incredible. I will give my little tip of when I use this, I actually have a bucket that I keep on the side. And that bucket I just fill with a little bit of water. So the second that I'm done using it, I just detach everything and put it right in the bucket, because I want that paint to stay saturated. And so that way it's so much easier to wash. So I just take everything apart. And if there are things on here that, this comes right off here. And so I just make sure that I take everything in the bucket. I don't have a sink in my garage. Like I don't have a, workshop sink. So everything is actually washed in my kitchen. And so I have to be very careful to not, get things on the dishes that are drying. So I bring everything in, and I, maybe there's a technique for this, but I personally just use Dawn dish soap. I rinse everything and I wash it, and I let it dry completely before I put it back into the container here, which this is such a handy little container. It's easy to store. And I really recommend it. I think, while this is wonderful, there is also something magical about just painting with a brush. So I am not pro either way. I think there are different projects that require it. I have a client project coming in that is a giant hutch that they want painted from the solid natural wood to black. That is actually going to be with this, because that would take me forever to do with the brush. But for smaller projects like a little nightstand, that I would do by hand. So you'll kind of like get a feel for how they work. But the Wagner Flexio 5000 or any of these brands, highly recommend. And also they're really responsive on like social media and stuff. So if you have questions, you just ask and their customer service team will help. And I, as coming from a customer service background, that's really important to me to know that I'm not just left in the dark, especially since I bought this, secondhand. So yeah, paint sprayer, definitely recommend, but make sure to test things out first to get used to it. So, So when it comes to cleaning a piece before you work on it, like that's where you begin with everything. And the reason is because, if you picked up something from the alley or, it's been sitting in someone's garage and it's really old, it's like there's probably years of fingerprint oils and dust and dirt and who knows what's hidden behind each drawer. So you really have to like literally take everything apart and you have to start to clean from the inside out. That is how I always start cleaning every project. And sometimes you'll find some treasures back here in these pieces. In this particular piece, I actually found an old typewritten piece of paper that had been written, and had a name on it. And when I searched that name, it turns out it was a prominent San Diego attorney in like the 1940s. So I'm guessing this was his desk, which is pretty cool. So you just clean everything out. I have a dust buster actually, and I'll get in there and clean that. And then the actual cleaning part, keep it simple. Like you could use something very simple like this totally awesome cleaner that I literally got at the dollar store. It's a concentrate. You mix it with a little bit of water. You can just use an all-purpose cleaner that you have at home in the kitchen. Like, I know that sounds so silly and maybe some people will be like, ooh, don't do that. Look, you're on a budget, or you're just trying to make sure that you get the residue off so you can start working on it. That's your first spot in the prep. I think when it comes down to the actual sanding part, you're using the orbital sander. If your orbital sander has the little holes on it, you're going to want to make sure that you apply it so all of the little holes stick through there. It just sticks right on. You can sand everything down. There's different grits of sandpaper. I'm not going to get into that right now, but what I will say is, in between sanding, there might be like dust on here. So you still got to go through and clean it up even more. You'll see like there's still from the sanding. And you don't have to use paper towels every time. This is literally, I cut myself a crop top. And so this was a crop top cutting. Or if you have old shirts that are ripped or old kitchen towels that you no longer use those types of things to upcycle them to save yourself some just regular towels or paper towels. So just these could easily be washed again. And so just cleaning off any like old fingerprints and things before you work on it is going to be helpful, because then when you sand it, this isn't going to get all clogged up with oils and all that kind of stuff. So that's really the first step. Always make sure to prep it. If there was paint over this, some people use the paint stripper, and I think that's awesome. I think that's great. It's a helpful chemical that you pour on here. You let it sit. You cover it in plastic wrap like a leftover, and then you just literally just scrape it off, and it is so satisfying to watch. I cannot use paint stripper. I found out the hard way. I didn't know that this was a thing, but I kept getting really bad sinus infections every time I would use a paint stripper. And so after multiple doctor visits and just a lot of medication, I just decided, well, let's see what happens when I don't use that. And it all went away. So I do not use that. So if you do have a piece of furniture that has old paint on it and you got to get rid of it, you don't have to use paint stripper. You could just sand it off. You could start with a carbide scraper, which just literally is just a blade, and you just go on paint and you just kind of scrape it off. One other thing, that I'm going to tell you about that is a little bit of a insider trick that also goes to safety. Let me show you, because this is actually something really important when you're working with old furniture. Lead testing. And gosh, I feel like I've been talking mostly about safety stuff, but I cannot tell you the importance of testing for lead. These old pieces, are painted with who knows what. And I'll be very honest. So this particular mid-century modern piece from the 50s, it had these handles on the front. You could see the holes here for them. The handles are not here right now because the handles are painted black and yellow. When I tested them for lead, the dresser was fine, did not have lead. And this is literally, you take out this little swab, you dip it in some water, and when it is in water, it'll turn colors. If there's no lead detected, it stays this orange. If there is lead detected, it will turn red, and it will tell you if there's lead in it. And if there is lead, you're going to need extra safety gear to work on it if you still want to. Otherwise, you might not even want to work on it. But the handles had that, and so I was like, well, I can't work on them. But I have a colleague here in San Diego, actually, Jeremy Smith, Vintage Air. He actually reached out and was like, I have the gear and supplies to do that. I can take on that part of the project for you. So he took them. So always look out for help and ask for help if you're not sure, but just test for lead. Every single piece, just make sure you're testing in advance. Another little safety tip. And this little thing with all these lead swabs in it was, I don't know, like $8 on Amazon. So it is just something that you could pick up relatively easy, have on hand when you get furniture pieces in. Definitely recommend using it because you just never know, and health is wealth. And you want to keep working on furniture, you got to take care of yourself too. So this particular piece, though, if you look at it, it's easy to sand the solid parts here. The drawers will be easy, but there's a lot of detail here. And there's a couple different types of ways I could get in there. I could scrape it. I could sand it, but acetone is another thing that you could consider using, and a metal wire brush here. And so with acetone, though, it's this is incredibly flammable. So with all of these products that we have, you just have to be mindful of how to use them. This is a little bit more advanced. This is something I really just started using maybe, 6 months ago. But acetone will literally, if you use it for your fingernail polish, this is not the same as that, but it comes from the same family. It's just like very concentrated. So don't use it on your fingernails, but you would just pour it into a little cup and you would dip in the wire brush and you just scrape it, and essentially it would just peel off the finish. So you would be able to get everything off without sanding it. But acetone is another one of those things. And when you read up on it, like, you can't just pour it down the drain if you have extra. You have to let it evaporate. Make sure it is not near any type of open flame. Like in the alley where I work here, people drive through here all the time. So if I'm using acetone, I have to be really careful that no one, drives through and there's some spark, or, who throws something out the window. I don't know. Like, I have to be very cautious about certain things, the things that I would usually never think about. But again, it's a really great product to use. You could get it at your local hardware store. It's really helpful to clean up detail areas with the wire brush. It's kind of like a magic worker, but it is just incredibly important to know the hazards associated with it and to use it safely. So you can't pour it down the drain. You can't just do that stuff with it. So yeah, that's the scoop with acetone. Keeping things clean and always starting your projects with a good scrub-a-dub, because that's going to set the stage for all the next steps.